How many times have you felt that something was strange around you, but ignored the feeling? That chill down your spine when you hear an unexpected noise at home, the impression of being watched, or even a detail out of place that you swear you don't remember changing. It may seem like just our imagination, but what if I told you that some of these situations have explanations far scarier than we think? Bizarre cases and unsolved mysteries have always drawn attention, but some go beyond what logic can explain. People disappear without a trace, intruders live hidden inside houses for months without being noticed, disturbing images appear out of nowhere, and murders remain unsolved even after decades. What do all these stories have in common? They challenge our perception of security and make us question, are we really alone? Hello, restless minds. I'm Code, and this is Discover It, where curiosity has no limits. Subscribe and help the channel grow, because every time you like, comment, or share, you're helping us bring these discoveries to more people. Together, we can create a community where curiosity can change the world. And now, without further ado, let's get to the video. Imagine discovering that someone had been living inside your house for months, maybe even years, without you ever realizing it. It sounds like the plot of a horror movie, but cases like this have happened multiple times in real life. The phenomenon known as frog gen describes precisely this. People who manage to infiltrate someone else's home, hiding in attics, basements, inside walls, or even under beds. But what drives someone to do this? And more importantly, could this be happening to you without your knowledge? One of the most terrifying cases of frog gen happened to Brittany and James Campbell, a couple who moved to Honolulu, Hawaii in 2019. They were excited about their new life in paradise, but soon they started noticing small, strange details inside their home. A garage door left open without explanation, boxes moved out of place, objects that seemed to have been tampered with. At first, they thought it might be the work of teenagers breaking in just to cause trouble. But as time passed, the events became increasingly disturbing. Brittany started hearing footsteps during the night, creaking doors, and even the sound of boxes being opened. Whenever she got up to investigate, she found nothing. James, on the other hand, didn't believe his wife and insisted that it was all paranoia. However, on one particular night, while playing the piano alone, he felt that someone was watching him. When he turned to the window, he saw an unfamiliar face staring at him from outside. Even then, he dismissed it, convinced that it was just a nosy neighbor. The situation escalated when the family went away for a week, and upon returning, they realized someone had tried to prevent them from entering their own home. James had to force the door open, and when he stepped inside, he found a young man named Ezekiel Zaz, 23 years old. The most chilling part was what the intruder said when confronted, "This is not your house." The man was restrained until the police arrived, but what they found inside was even more horrifying: knives scattered on the bed, a diary detailing all of the family's movements, and even videos recorded on Brittany's laptop. Upon further investigation, they discovered that Ezekiel had been hiding in their attic for months, coming down only when everyone was asleep or out. He had been living off the supplies in their kitchen and was planning something even more terrifying, performing surgeries on the family while they were sedated. His diary contained detailed descriptions of procedures he intended to carry out, including a hand transplant and an experimental gender reassignment surgery. The police arrested Ezekiel, but he was released shortly after. However, his freedom didn't last long. In 2020, he was arrested again for vandalizing a Buddhist temple and, while in prison, ended up murdering his own cellmate. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison, but the trauma the Campbell family endured would never fade. After the incident, they abandoned their home and left Hawaii forever. But this case raises an even more disturbing question. How many other cases of frog gen exist that are never discovered? Could someone be living inside your house without you having the slightest clue? If a small detail out of place already makes us suspicious, how many times have we ignored signs of something far more terrifying happening right under our noses? Blair Adams was an ordinary man with a seemingly stable life. A 31-year-old Canadian, he worked in the construction industry and had no history of legal trouble. However, something changed drastically in 1996. Without any apparent explanation, Blair began acting strangely, convinced that someone was trying to kill him. He told friends and family that his life was in danger and that he needed to escape. But escape from whom? Or from what? The first signs of paranoia began a few weeks before his death. Blair withdrew all his savings from the bank, a considerable amount, and tried to cross the border into the United States. However, customs officers found his behavior suspicious and denied him entry. The next day, he tried again, this time claiming he just wanted to go sightseeing. This time, he was allowed through. But instead of following a typical tourist itinerary, Blair began an erratic journey, switching cars multiple times and traveling without a clear destination. On his journey, he passed through Seattle, Washington, then continued to Knoxville, Tennessee. Along the way, his behavior caught attention. He always seemed nervous, constantly looking over his shoulder and frequently changing hotels, as if he were being followed. Hotel staff reported that he walked into the lobby asking for a room, but before even completing the check-in, he hurriedly left without taking the keys. What made him leave like that? The next day, on July 11, 1996, Blair Adams' body was found in a parking lot in Knoxville. He was half naked, with his clothes scattered around his body. And the most bizarre detail? Thousands of dollars in Canadian, American, and German currency were strewn across the ground. It looked like a robbery, but nothing had been stolen. Blair had suffered a violent blow to the head and had defensive wounds, suggesting he had fought against his attacker before dying. The police investigated the case, but no concrete leads emerged. No witnesses saw what happened. There were no security camera records. Not even the money scattered on the ground seemed to have a logical explanation. What was Blair so afraid of? Was he really being pursued, or was it all just paranoia? And more importantly, who was responsible for his death? Over the years, many theories have surfaced. Some believe Blair had discovered something dangerous and was trying to escape a real threat. Others suggest he may have suffered a psychological breakdown, leading to a series of erratic events that ultimately resulted in his murder. But if it was a breakdown, who killed him? And why? To this day, Blair Adams' case remains unsolved. His death is still a mystery, and the questions surrounding his frantic escape have never been answered. Was he right to believe his life was in danger? Or did his own mind betray him, leading him to the tragic fate he so feared? It was a Sunday morning, September 5th, 1982, when 12-year-old Johnny Gosch left home to deliver newspapers in his neighborhood in the quiet town of West Des Moines, Iowa. As usual, he grabbed his newspaper cart and walked through the peaceful streets. However, that morning, Johnny would never return home. His disappearance would become one of the most puzzling and debated cases in the United States, sparking countless theories and leaving his family trapped in a never-ending nightmare. If there's one thing that sends chills down your spine, it's cases of missing children. And this one doesn't just give you goosebumps, it makes you question everything. The first signs that something was wrong came when neighbors started calling Johnny's parents, complaining that they hadn't received their newspapers. Worried, his parents went out to look for him and found only his abandoned newspaper cart on the sidewalk. There was no sign of the boy. Panic set in, and the police were quickly called. But to everyone's surprise, the local authorities initially treated the case as a voluntary runaway, claiming that the boy would likely return home within a few hours. However, that never happened. Witnesses reported seeing Johnny being approached by a man in a blue car. Another newspaper delivery boy said he saw Johnny talking to the driver, and shortly after, a second man appeared, following the boy. Moments later, Johnny simply vanished. The strangest part? No solid clues were ever found, no ransom was demanded, and as time passed, the case went cold. Could a 12-year-old boy really have been taken without leaving a trace? Johnny's mother, Noreen Gosch, never accepted the idea that her son had simply disappeared without explanation. She became an unwavering investigator of the case, relentlessly pressuring authorities to reopen the investigation. Years later, a shocking twist occurred. Noreen claimed that Johnny had secretly visited her in the middle of the night as an adult, accompanied by other men. According to her, her son told her he had been kidnapped by a criminal organization and subjected to abuse, but he couldn't reveal more details because his life was in danger. The story sounds unbelievable, but Noreen has always insisted that the visit truly happened. 6 years after Johnny's disappearance, his photo was one of the first to appear on milk cartons in the United States as part of a national program to publicize missing children. This helped popularize the practice, which became common in the 1980s and 1990s. But despite the enormous publicity surrounding the case, Johnny's whereabouts were never discovered. Some believe he may still be alive, hiding somewhere, trying to escape those who took him. Others say he may have been the victim of something even darker. If Johnny really survived and grew up, why did he never return home for good? Is he still under the control of those who kidnapped him? Or did his mother create this story as a way to cope with the pain of losing her son? The mystery remains unsolved. And the only certainty is that to this day, Noreen Gosch continues to wait for answers. For more than a decade, a disturbing image has circulated the internet, intriguing and frightening those who see it. The photo shows a group of people at an event, seemingly normal, but among them, there is a Japanese woman with her neck bent at an unsettling angle and an expression that appears inhuman. The most chilling detail? No one around her seems to notice anything strange. Since first appearing in Japanese paranormal magazines in 2009, this photo has sparked various theories and even an urban legend. The story of the slanted sister, a vengeful spirit who haunts those who stare at her image for too long. But is there any truth behind this mystery? According to legend, the woman in the photo was a famous TV host in Japan. Her life seemed perfect until the day she discovered her husband was cheating on her. Devastated, she decided to end her life in a brutal way. However, her soul did not find peace, and she returned to seek revenge, not just on her husband and his mistress, but on every woman who crossed her path. This theory gained traction due to the fact that in the image, most of the people around her are women, as if she were among her future victims. This explanation, however, is nothing more than a myth. Despite the eerie stories, the truth behind this photo is much simpler, yet still fascinating. The image was originally published in the Japanese horror magazine Danger Images for Your Brain, a publication specializing in manipulated photographs and horror stories designed to scare readers. It was a type of content meant to create mystery and feed modern folklore, something very common in Japanese pop culture. Interestingly, an old video was found showing the exact moment the photo was taken. In the footage, it is clear that the woman was simply imitating a famous gesture of a Japanese TV host who often tilted his head as a joke during broadcasts. In other words, there was nothing paranormal about it, just a strange pose captured at an even stranger angle. But why does the image still haunt people even after the explanation? The power of suggestion can be incredibly strong when something seems off or unusual. Our minds seek explanations that often lean toward the supernatural. The twisted neck woman photo triggers this natural instinct of discomfort, which is what has made it so iconic over the years. Still, some people insist there is something wrong with the photo. Some say the distortion of the neck doesn't look natural, even considering a camera trick. Others claim that after looking at the image for too long, they felt chills or had nightmares. But is this nothing more than pure psychological influence? Regardless of the photo's true origin, the legend of the twisted neck woman has become one of the internet's most famous mysteries. Whether it's a well-made manipulation or just an unusual moment captured on film, what truly matters is the impact it has. After all, why do certain images make us so uncomfortable, even when we know there's nothing actually wrong with them? In 1941, Theodore Edward Connes became the protagonist of one of the most terrifying home invasion cases ever recorded. Known as the Denver Spider-Man, he lived hidden inside an acquaintance's house for months without anyone suspecting his presence. This case not only exemplifies the concept of frog gen, but also proves that in some situations, the real danger may be much closer than we imagine. The story begins with Connie's wandering aimlessly through the streets of Denver, Colorado. With no money, no family, and poor health, he was looking for a place to take shelter. That's when he remembered Philip Peters, an old acquaintance who lived with his wife in a comfortable house. Connie's knew the couple was kind, so he decided to visit them in hopes of getting some help. But when he arrived, he found the house empty. Philip's wife was hospitalized, and he spent most of his time away taking care of her. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Connie's found an entryway to the attic and decided that would be his new home. The space was tiny, barely large enough for an adult to stand, but he adapted. For weeks, he would sneak down when Philip left the house, eat whatever he could find in the kitchen, and return to his hiding spot before anyone noticed. But as expected, this insane plan wouldn't last forever. One night, Philip Peters returned home earlier than usual. He heard strange noises and realized that someone was inside his house. As he investigated, he came face to face with Connie's, who panicked at being discovered. Fearing he would be reported to the police, the intruder brutally attacked Philip with a fireplace iron, killing him instantly. After the crime, Connie simply returned to the attic, where he remained even as the police investigated the crime scene. What makes this case even more chilling is that, even after Philip's death, Connie's continued living in the attic for weeks. The police were investigating the murder, and neighbors started noticing strange activity such as lights turning on and off by themselves and unexplained noises at night. The unease grew so much that Philip's wife eventually moved out of the house, believing it was haunted. It was only months later, when the house was vacant, that the police decided to conduct a final sweep of the property and discovered Connie's. He was in horrible condition, severely malnourished, and his skin nearly clinging to his bones. The attic where he had been hiding was so cramped that investigators were shocked anyone could have survived there for so long. Connie's was arrested and sentenced to life in prison, but the impact of his story lingers to this day. This case makes us reflect on something deeply unsettling. How many signs do we ignore in our daily lives? A noise in the kitchen that we attribute to the wind, an object out of place that we assume we misplaced, the feeling of being watched. Are these just paranoia? Or are there times when we should pay more attention? On the afternoon of March 24th, 2013, Eliza Sherman, a respected 53-year-old nurse and mother of four, left home with a clear purpose: to finalize her divorce proceedings with her husband. It was a difficult phase, but she believed that day would mark the beginning of a new chapter in her life. However, she never returned home. Eliza was brutally stabbed to death in broad daylight, right in front of her lawyer's office in downtown Cleveland, Ohio. The crime shocked the city, not only because of its violence, but also because more than a decade later, no one has been held accountable for the murder. She just wanted to move on with her life, but ended up becoming the protagonist of an unsolved mystery. And the worst part? It seems like someone went out of their way to make sure this crime was never solved. The crime scene raised more questions than answers. Security cameras captured a hooded figure fleeing the scene, but the footage was too poor to allow identification. Additionally, despite the crime occurring in a busy area, no one was able to provide an accurate description of the killer. This led to an investigation that dragged on for years without a clear suspect. From the beginning, authorities focused on a list of potential culprits. The most obvious suspect was Eliza's ex-husband, Sanford Sherman. Their divorce was bitter and contentious, and Sanford was involved in suspicious financial activities. A few years after Eliza's death, it was revealed that Sanford had embezzled over $2 million from her bank account. His behavior during the separation was also aggressive, and reports indicate that their children even called the police due to frequent arguments. Another person of interest was Eliza's lawyer, Gregory Moore. On the day of the murder, Moore was supposed to meet Eliza in his office, but Witnesses reported that he left an hour before the crime and returned an hour after it happened. Additionally, years later, Moore was indicted for multiple crimes, including obstruction of justice and document forgery, which raised suspicions about his real involvement in the case. But if he had something to hide, what would his motive be? Finally, another possibility emerged: that Sanford Sherman's mistress might have been involved. Investigations revealed that Eliza's husband had been in an extramarital affair for at least 4 years before their divorce, and the woman he was with had reasons to want Eliza out of the picture. But is this theory valid, or is it just another piece of this confusing puzzle? Despite numerous leads, no concrete evidence has ever surfaced against any of the suspects, and Eliza Sherman's murder remains unsolved. What makes the case even more frustrating is that even after all these years, justice has never been served. Her death is still a mystery, and the lingering question remains: who killed Eliza Sherman? And why has this person never been found? In the 1980s and 90s, arcades were the ultimate gathering spots for kids and teenagers passionate about video games. At a time when home consoles were still limited, arcade machines in bars, malls, and shops attracted crowds of players. However, amid the fun and competitive gaming, a dark detail haunted some of these machines: screens displaying photos of missing children. Imagine being immersed in a game, only to suddenly see the face of a child who had never been found. It might seem like a small detail, but for many, it was a chilling reminder of a real danger. In the United States and Canada, the 1980s were marked by an alarming wave of child disappearances. In response, authorities launched awareness campaigns to publicize the faces of these missing children as widely as possible. This is how the famous Missing Children on Milk Cartons campaign was born, spreading across the country. But what few people know is that this idea also reached the world of video games, specifically arcades. The most well-known case involved a game called Mini Golf, a simple yet popular title found in many arcade machines. Some players reported an unexpected event. After completing a game, instead of seeing the score screen, they were shown photos of 2 missing boys, along with physical descriptions like eye and hair color. Their names were Taj Allen Merman and Stephen Philip Curtis. Despite being featured together, they had disappeared at different times and places, making the situation even more mysterious. A Reddit user, known as Thunderfist, shared his memory of seeing this screen for the first time. He was just a child back then, and was deeply disturbed when he noticed the faces of the missing boys. Years later, he couldn't shake the memory, so he decided to investigate. He managed to find a version of the game and play until the missing children's screen reappeared. With their names in hand, he searched for information and discovered that one of the boys, Taj Allen Merman, had been found in 1985 in Georgia. The shocking part? He had been abducted by his own mother after she lost custody of him. The case of Stephen Philip Curtis, however, remains a mystery. There are no detailed public records of his whereabouts, and his photo continues to appear in online investigative forums. Some claim to have found information on him in 2019 and 2023, but no official confirmation has ever been made. In Brazil, a similar initiative was discussed in 2001. A proposed law aimed to require milk companies to print photos of missing children on their packaging, just like in the United States. The proposal was approved in some stages, but was never actually implemented. With the rise of the internet and social media, the dissemination of missing persons cases has since taken on different forms. This case raises an unsettling question. How many missing children could have been found with wider publicity? And more importantly, how many past mysteries remain unsolved, waiting to be uncovered? The dark side of the unknown. Through these stories, we've seen how the unknown can be much closer than we imagine. Whether it's intruders hiding inside houses, people disappearing without a trace, or mysteries that challenge our understanding, reality is often as terrifying as fiction. The case of Blair Adams shows how someone can be pursued by an invisible threat, while Johnny Gosch's case reminds us that not all disappearances have explanations. the attic intruders prove that sometimes the danger is literally above our heads, and mysterious images like the twisted-necked Japanese woman make us question how we perceive the world around us. But what about you? Did any of these stories make you see things differently? Have you ever felt watched for no reason? Or have you ever found something out of place in your house and ignored it without thinking twice? If you enjoyed this journey of discoveries, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends, and comment below on what stood out the most to you. Maybe others have had similar experiences, and together we can create an interesting discussion. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more content where curiosity has no limits.